Hi, I'm Tuesday, and welcome back to Tuesday with Tuesday. Tuesdays with Tuesday. Yeah, that's right. I am here to read to you another chapter of one of my books. Today we're reading Taste, and I think we're in chapter 6. I'm very excited because if you will notice, the previous several videos I've had my paperback, which has my previous cover, which was lovely. But I'm here to tell you I finally have my hardback. Look at how pretty that is. Oh my gosh. It's a hardback with the new cover and I love it. I feel very lucky to have graphic artists who are much more talented at understanding what I want and mixing that with what will actually look good than I could ever be at communicating that. I can't even communicate it well to you right now. So thank you to all my designers. Thank you to all the designers of the world who make pictures out of our words. So today we're going to read chapter 6 and I have various animals around here. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be very exciting because I have a lot of animals around here. We have new fish and I got 2 mice. They're super cute. Crescent Moon and Eclipse Hakume. I'm very excited for them, but they can't be in the picture right now because it is daytime and they are nocturnal, so not so exciting. My dog would like to join us. I hope that's okay with you. So she will try to be out of the frame, but I cannot make any promises because she's a dog. All right, here we go. Chapter 6, October Grace, a Vampire Hunter. I sat at the table with clammy hands that had forgotten how to use a fork without dropping it after every 5th bite. I didn't know how much of the conversation I'd overheard was real, how it could be real, but I sure as Sunday understood that if a dude named Mason showed up, I was making a quick exit. I'd never broken a bone before, but I'd reset plenty. No thanks. Ezra turned back to me, but after that, I was a turtle in a shell. Your mother tells me you are a nursing assistant. That sounds like a fascinating job. Yep. I'm sure that's exactly what Bev told him, since she didn't know much about my life. I sat up straighter and tried to appear normal, like I wasn't freaking out. Like I wasn't sitting across from a guy who just hired someone to rough me up and a potential... I couldn't say it. I know vampires aren't real, but by the way Vaughn and Danny were talking, it sure didn't seem like a myth. My succinct answer annoyed Danny, as evidenced by his rolled eyes. Not sure what crawled up his butt, but I knew it wasn't the yellow caterpillar, which was still observing me, with a curious tilt to its head. I decided to name the caterpillar Wilbur, since I'd never been intimidated by a Wilbur before. I was still pretty sure my OCD medication didn't have any hallucinatory side effects, so I tried to keep my cool and write it off as a big, giant whatever. Correctional nurse, Ollie interjected politely. October's not a nurse's assistant. She has an assistant, so she can write up reports and make recommendations for psychosocial support. Ollie stopped only when my heel dug into his foot to shut him up. Ezra didn't need to know more about me. I was on the periphery of his goal to get to know Bev better. Sticking to the basics was a better tactic. Nurse, age 22, high-fives strangers without having to wash her hands, doesn't have bugs looking at her like they want to sit down to tea and have a chat. Also, wooden steak flinger, because everything I knew about vampires came from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Ezra looked truly upset he'd gotten a detail wrong. I was worried about bone-breaking Mason showing up, and of course the alleged vampire on my left, but Ezra was concerned about social graces. It was actually kind of sweet. Ezra frowned. Oh, I'm sorry. I had a premonition I would muck something up. I do apologize that it was something concerning you, dear. Tell me, what's the difference between a nursing assistant and a correctional nurse so I can properly remember the right one for next time? My voice was small, and I wished Ollie hadn't said anything. The kind of nurse you're thinking of works in a hospital or does home care, while a correctional nurse treats only inmates. It's really not anything you have to worry about. It's almost the same thing. People get it mixed up all the time. Wilbur took notice of my cordial response and nodded twice at me, as if to let me know he approved of the succinct breakdown. Or maybe he was thinking my hair looked weird. It was hard to understand Wilbur, but he looked lonely up there, so I tried my best. Ezra regarded me with a hint of confusion and worry. That seems dangerous. Mary Ann nodded. Indeed. Aren't you frightened going to work every day? I shrugged, casting her a small smile. There's plenty of security. It was a little intimidating at first, but now it's just like any other job. Overwhelming some days, boring on others. Mary Ann looked at me as if I was Wonder Woman. Well, I think you're quite brave. I blinked at her, stunned. Wow. Thanks, Mary Ann. Vaughn sized me up in a way that made me bristle. You're just a little pixie, though. Are we talking juvie? I didn't care if Vaughn was a vampire or not. I didn't prefer to be judged on my size. No, though the inmates sometimes act like juveniles. I was perplexed by their concern for me more than anything. Crossing the street can be dangerous if you're unprepared. I noticed Danny and Ezra exchanging wary conspiratorial glances. I bent my head down to look at my plate, effectively putting an end to further dissection of my life choices. Ezra was in on it. Though I couldn't be sure if he'd sanctioned the Bonebreaker to come, I knew by the look he'd exchanged with Danny that something I'd said meant some kind of confirmation to them. I scratched the back of my hand under the table. Ezra was strange to me. I didn't understand his game. The whole kind eyes thing really threw me. I cracked into my creme brulee, expecting a vanilla pudding made to look fancy. What greeted my taste buds set my eyes rolling back in my head as I moaned. This is amazing, Ezra. Did Lena make this? What's in it? Ezra smiled that I was participating in conversation. It's lavender. She loves cooking with fresh herbs. Utter gem she is. I turned to Ollie, who was smiling at me, relieved I hadn't gone completely into my turtle shell. Dude, try yours. It's unreal. Ollie and I moaned in unison, forgetting our table manners in the wake of the ecstasy from the amazing dessert we couldn't put down. Vaughn, Ezra, and Mary Ann chuckled in amusement at our dramatics. I'm sure they were used to such fanciness, but I was blown away. Bev was not amused. Honestly, you'd think you two were raised in a barn, carrying on how you are. October Grace, you're making a pig of yourself. Ollie's head swiveled to Bev, his eyes zoning in on her dangerously. That's one, he warned her, quiet in his controlled fury. I reached over and snapped the rubber band on his wrist that anger management counselor had given him to center himself, reminding him that now was not the time for a family fight. Ollie didn't like it when Bev slid in the fat jokes. She'd done the same thing with Allie until my big sister had stopped eating. Screw Miss Manners. I was in heaven. I decided to try and play with the troubling conversation I'd overheard in the hallway and just be myself, weird as I was. Ezra, this is only the most perfect thing I've ever eaten in my life. Scratch that. The most perfect thing I've eaten in all my lives, including the one where I was a vampire hunter. I took a drink of water, meeting Vaughn's eyes in a playful challenge. Vaughn swallowed hard, his gaze darting toward Ezra and Danny in silent alarm. Even that one? Ollie asked, grinning. Ah, yes. We had that leprechaun meat dipped in vampire blood sauce in the underworld hunter life. That was to die for. He played my game as if it was a game, and not a mental arm wrestling match between myself and the new guys. My nose scrunched while I danced around the V word, as if I wasn't aware it was a hot button that shouldn't be pushed. I walked right up to the taboo and banged it like a friggin' gong. Nah, vampires taste like beets, no matter how you sauce them. I winked at Vaughn to let him know I'd heard his little conversation in the hallway, for better or worse. Vaughn snorted through a smirk and started coughing, swallowing down his bite with a few gulps of water. That caught me by surprise. Haven't had this many genuine laughs over dinner in ages. How many lives have you had, little peach? Vaughn asked me, wiping his mouth on his red cloth napkin. 10, obviously. I mean, I've got a medium amount of wisdom. Been around the block a few times, but I'm not all jaded yet. It's a delicate balance. I was on top of my game when I trained with ninjas to punch out the fangs of vampires. See, a few troublesome vampires and their buddies tried to break my arm to test the strength of my bones. I tapped my chin as if in thought, what was that guy's name who tried to rough me up? I think it was Mason or something like that. That's right, cards on the table, people. Danny, Ezra, Mary Ann, and Vaughn all stiffened, but Ollie laughed while Bev rolled her eyes. Ollie didn't miss a beat and glommed on to my oddball jokes. Sure, but that life, where you were a chimney sweep in the Charles Dickens era, wasn't so bad. Mary Ann cast me a meek smile. Luckily you made it out with your sense of humor intact. Vaughn cleared his throat. Did you get to meet Ebenezer Scrooge, perchance? Meet him? Who do you think taught the old grouch bookkeeping? I pointed my spoon at Ollie, who tipped his head in Vaughn's direction. You seem to have led quite an interesting life, November, Vaughn remarked as he finished off his dessert. My name's October, I corrected him, not unkindly. I know. Vaughn picked up his Bloody Mary and swirled it around in the glass, letting it coat the sides in a way tomato juice couldn't. It was as if he wanted me to see the horror he'd hidden in plain sight. Vaughn was screwing with me. He knew I'd overheard, and now he was taunting me with his inclination to suck down a little O-negative. Vaughn took a sip and smacked his lips. My, that is refreshing. Fancy a taste? I cast him a dubious look, not sure if I was more put off by the fact that there was blood in the glass, or that he'd sincerely just offered to share his germ-infested drink with me. That's the end of chapter 6. We are doing so good. We're moving through this book. If you haven't caught the first series of videos reading Savage Hearts, I read Savage Hearts to you, which is book 1 of 5 in the Savage Hearts series. Terraway is a 9-part series, and Taste is book 1 in that series. I'm probably only going to do book 1s in the series, and then if you want to continue, you can read them wherever you like. You can get them on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Google Play, any of those things. You can even request them at your library, which I'm always happy when people are using their library. And if I can be the magical fairy princess who brings you to the library, then you have just made my life complete. So if you would like to keep reading, go on ahead. As of right now, as of the recording of this video, book 1 is free on an ebook. So if you want to download the ebook and read ahead, feel free. Also, if you want to listen to the audiobook and have an actual producer, narrator, beautiful person read to you without as many mistakes as I do, and with accents, because Ezra and Vaughn and everyone, they all have an English accent, which I cannot do. And I can try, but it comes out, it starts out like Dick Van Dyke and ends Jamaican. Like, there is no roadmap in my vocabulary of language, so I apologize. But I made it up to you by making an actual good audiobook available for you with an actual wonderful actress. So if you'd like to check that out, you're more than welcome to. Otherwise, I will see you every Tuesday at my channel, and I will read to you book 1. And I hope that you have a great week and that you do something good for yourself, like sitting down and reading a book.